Hi there, this is Tony from pianotone.ca, and this is my review on the long-awaited replacement for the Yamaha Piaggero NP-32, the new Yamaha Piaggero NP-35. And just an FYI, this review does also apply to the Piaggero NP-15, which is identical to the NP-35 with the exception of the keybed and the speaker size. Let's check it out. So one of the first reviews I ever did on my channel was for the Yamaha Piaggero NP-32. Feel free to follow that link in the description below if you want to check it out. So what is the Yamaha Piaggero NP-35? I have to agree with how Yamaha markets the Piaggero line. It's a piano-style or piano-focused keyboard. What does that mean? It means that it has some features that kind of aim it towards people that are mostly interested in just playing piano as opposed to playing keyboard in general. And that starts with what I'm going to start this review with, which is the key action. So the NP-35 has 76 keys, and they're shaped like piano keys. So they're a box-style shape as opposed to synth action diving board-style keys like you're going to find on the Yamaha PSR-E series keyboards. There are 4 levels of touch sensitivity to allow you to customize your playing experience. And while the keys on the NP-35 are not weighted keys like you're going to find on a digital piano, they do have a really unique feature for a non-weighted keybed, and that is they are graded, meaning they feel heavier to play on the left side of the keyboard and lighter to play on the right side of the keyboard, and that is something you're going to find on a real acoustic piano. Yamaha calls this their graded soft touch action, which was also on the prior model. And to be honest, I'm not sure if this action has been upgraded from the NP-32 or not. From memory, it feels pretty much the same as the NP-32 to me, but I can't really say for sure whether or not the action has seen any kind of an upgrade. So as I mentioned, the grading feature is pretty unique for a non-weighted keyboard. Between that and the box-style shape, the NP-35 does provide the player with a very light but still very pianistic playing experience. Someone who starts out playing piano with the NP-35 will likely have a much easier time transitioning to an acoustic or fully weighted digital piano down the road than someone who starts out with something like the Yamaha PSR-E series keyboards with their synth-style keys. I'm actually a fan of lighter and even semi-weighted key actions, so I quite like the action on the NP-35. I find it really easy to adjust to this keybed and still be able to play expressively like I would on a weighted digital piano. I do, however, have one complaint about the keybed, and that is the key width is narrower than a normal piano. The octave width on the NP-35 is about 159 millimeters compared to the octave width on most digital pianos, which is usually about 164 to 165 millimeters. I've mentioned this issue quite a bit in a lot of keyboard reviews before, but I find it's actually a little bit more pronounced, at least for me, with the NP-35, and that's because it's not just the octave width and the white keys being narrower than normal. The black keys are really, really skinny on the Piaggero. Check out the picture comparing the keys on the NP-35 with the true full-size keys on my Yamaha DGX 670. You can see that the white keys and the octave width is narrower, but take a close look at how much thinner the black keys are on the Piaggero. I actually find playing the black keys to be an even bigger adjustment than the octave width as a whole, especially if I'm playing like a piano solo or something that uses the black keys. I find that my fingers tend to slip off either side really, really easily, so it does take some adjusting. But I do have to say, in all fairness, that this is definitely not the end of the world, especially if this is going to be your main keyboard. You'll get used to the key width and you'll be fine. And I'm betting that moving from the Piaggero keys to a true full-sized set of keys will be easier than the other way around. But either way, I would have really liked to see Yamaha put proper full-size keys in the new versions of the Piaggero. The only real direct competitor for the Piaggero is the Korg Liano, and Korg did put true full-size keys on their model. I'll be talking a bunch more about the Liano at the end of this review. But all that being said, for the intended audience of the NP-35, this is a pretty cool keybed that provides a pianistic playing experience, and since it's not weighted, that brings the weight of the keyboard itself down to make it significantly more portable than most digital pianos are going to be, because it only weighs about 13 pounds. So I mentioned at the start of this review that there are only 2 differences between the NP-35 and the NP-15, and one of those is the keybed. It's not just the number of keys that is different, with the NP-35 having 76 keys and the NP-15 having 61 keys. The NP-15 does not have the graded soft touch action. All the keys on the NP-15 are going to offer the identical resistance, so still soft and responsive to play, but not quite as pianistic feeling as the NP-35. Okay, sounds. The NP-35 has increased the number of sounds from 10 on the NP-32 to 15 on the new model. And I have to admit, I really like how Yamaha has tweaked the sounds on the new models. Not only have there been improvements made in the sound quality, but even more importantly, in my opinion, Yamaha added 5 new sounds that were all noticeably missing from the prior version. Other than the main piano sound, to be honest, the 5 sounds that are added would be among my most used sounds if I owned an NP-35. So great job filling in some huge holes on the prior model. So the main voice is a concert grand. This was on the NP-32, and I would use this a lot. Then there's a mellow grand, and then a bright grand. That was not on the NP-32, and I would actually use this a ton, especially for rock and blues songs, because it's very bright and it kind of stands out in the mix. Then there's a Yamaha DX electric piano that was on the prior model as well. Now, another new voice that's been added that I would use a ton is the stage electric piano, which is kind of like a Rhodes. I would use that a lot. Then there's a vintage electric piano, like a Wurlitzer. Then there's 2 church organs. There's organ principal and organ tutti. Then there's a jazz organ like a Hammond B3. This was missing on the prior model. The only organs on the NP-32 were church organs, which personally I would never use. I'm a huge Hammond fan, so I would use this voice constantly if I had an NP-35. And while there are tons of different Hammond B3 setups and configurations you can have, the sample that they chose for the Piaggero is a really good kind of general use Hammond sound. So nice job, Yamaha. Then we've got 2 harpsichords. There's a 8-foot and an 8 plus a 4. And there's a vibraphone and then a strings voice. Then 2 more voices that Yamaha added that were missing on the prior model is a strings pad and a synth pad. Both of those are super nice options to have for different ways to layer something along with your piano sound than just the original strings voice from the NP-32. So once again, great job, Yamaha. So the main piano sound is sampled from the Yamaha CF3S grand piano, so this has been a big upgrade from the prior model. As far as the other sounds go, they do, from memory and from watching my old videos on the NP-32, seem to have seen an upgrade. But as I mentioned previously, I'm most impressed with the addition of these new sounds, in particular the bright grand for rock songs, and that jazz organ, and then the new pads for layering with piano. And something else notable that's been added to the new line of Piaggeros is damper resonance for a couple of the piano sounds, which is awesome. Here's a quick sample of all the sounds on the NP-35, including a couple of layering examples. So what did you think of the sounds on the NP-35? I think for the price, they're really good. And as I mentioned before, the newly added sounds are super nice to have. The only thing I wish you could do with the NP-35 is split voices left and right, but I guess you can't have everything. What would have been nice to see is even a pre-split voice with either the grand piano or the bright piano on the right and a bass guitar on the left. And on a piano with only 15 voices, should 25% of those voices really be taken up by church organs and harpsichords? I think there's room to switch one of those out with a pre-split bass and piano voice, but maybe for the next version. Okay, so the user interface on the NP-35 is basically unchanged from the NP-32. It's still a super simple but pretty functional button-driven user interface. On the left-hand side, you've got your volume control and the power button. And you've got a demo button that will allow you to play piano demo songs and voice demos. So for a voice demo, you hold down the demo button and you just hit one of the voice buttons and it's going to play for you. Then there's also piano demo songs that you can listen to by holding down the demo button while you choose a piano demo song by pressing different keys on the piano. I never actually pay any attention to demo songs or voice demos on keyboards, but they're there if you're interested. There's a list of the songs and the associated keys in the user manual. Then there's the metronome button, which not only is for configuring your metronome settings, but it also doubles as a function button for changing settings on the keyboard using key combinations on the piano. So doing that, you can set things like the relative volume between layered voices. You can octave shift one voice or both independently if you're layered. You can choose your reverb type and set the depth, and you can control metronome settings, set the speed, the beat, etc. And you can set the touch sensitivity. Then for some more customized settings, you actually need to hold the demo and the metronome button down together, and then use key combinations to change things like tuning. If you want to be non-standard tuning, to transpose the keyboard up or down. This would have been a real nice touch to have dedicated panel buttons for transposing because it's a pretty commonly used setting. You can also hold those two buttons down and then use the proper key combinations to change MIDI channels, set audio loopback on or off, enable or disable sound boost, and enabling or disabling the auto power off feature, and for turning confirmation sounds for setting changes on or off. So then we've got the 5 voice category buttons for toggling between the 3 voices within each of those categories. So you got piano, electric piano, organ, harpsichord / vibraphone, and strings. So as you press the category button over and over, you're going to see it's going to change colors. So white, orange, and then blue. And then back to white again. And that's basically to signify which voice you've got selected. So the main piano voice is the grand piano. And then this is the mellow. And then the bright. So it's nice that you can just glance at the keyboard and see what voice you have selected. That's something that I think is super valuable. Then to layer 2 voices, you simply hold 2 voices down at the same time. So if I hold down piano and strings, you can see both of them light up. So now the voices are layered. Then you've got a record button, which is just basically a way for quickly capturing an idea quickly in a single song. It's just a single song, single track audio recorder. So that's pretty much it for the user interface. To be honest, I quite like it. It's super easy to use, and the fact that you can select voices easily and just glance at the panel and know what your current voice that you have selected is a huge advantage. If you follow my channel, you know that I'm not a big fan of needing to choose voices or change settings with key combinations. While you do have to use key combinations to change some settings, like relative volumes on layers, these aren't settings that I change all that often, so not the end of the world. As I mentioned, having a dedicated transpose up or down button would be a massive addition, but not the end of the world. One thing that Yamaha really should have done to improve the NP-35, add some labels for some of these key combinations. The only labels they have are labels for with numbers for configuring metronome settings. But you could very easily have added some labels for how you transpose up and down, adjust the relative volumes up and down, that kind of thing. And that would have been really handy to have. Wouldn't have really cost Yamaha much to do. So really wish they'd done that. But if you do want to have a spectacular graphical-driven user interface to control your NP-35, not to mention some pretty cool added features, the new NP series keyboards are now compatible with Smart Pianist from Yamaha, which is a big upgrade over the prior models. Now, I do have a full review on the Smart Pianist app, which I will link to in the description below, but that video was done with the Yamaha P125, and that does have additional features like rhythms and accompaniment, as well as more voices. So the Smart Pianist app will look a little bit different with the NP-35, but it still does give you a fantastic graphical user interface to interact with your piano, choose and layer voices, and change settings without having to learn any key combinations. Okay, so when you run Smart Pianist, it's actually going to disable the buttons on the panel of the keyboard itself, but that's okay because you don't need them because you're using Smart Pianist. It's going to land you in the piano room where you can choose between the concert grand and the bright grand. Then you can also choose between the reverb types, which are these environments. So Hall 1, Hall 3, Cathedral, Room, and just Off for no reverb. If you click this piano button in the top right-hand corner, then it's going to take you to some different settings where you can change your touch response curve. You're back in the environment here again, except now I'm going to be able to also adjust the reverb depth. So I put myself back into Cathedral. If I crank the reverb, tons of reverb. Nice thing about Smart Pianist is if you double tap on a setting, it's going to return it back to its default level, so that's pretty handy. I can click on Master Tune and change the tuning of my piano to something non-standard, and I can turn damper resonance on and off. FYI, damper resonance only works on the concert and the bright grand, and that's why those are the only two pianos that are available to you in the piano room here. Now, I actually don't spend much time myself in piano room whenever I use Smart Pianist. I'm always out here in the voice menu or the song menu, which I'm about to show you. So if I click on the voice menu, then I just tap on the image. Now I can choose between any of the different instruments here. So I'm going to go to stage piano, which is the Rhodes. Now if I want to add a layer to that, defaults to strings. I'm going to switch that to the synth pad because I really like the synth pad. Nice thing here too is you've got a mixer where you can easily control the relative volumes between these two instruments. So I can crank the layer volume or vice versa. So super handy and a lot easier to do than using the key combinations, memorizing those out of the manual. So now I've also got access to a metronome here. I don't actually use a metronome much myself, but I know lots of people do. I'm always playing along with a drum beat instead. But I can turn the metronome on. I can have the bell go on the new measures or disable that. And I can change the tempo and the time signature and all of that kind of stuff on the volume. So I'm just going to turn that guy off. So let's say I want to record something. I'm going to hit the record button. New song. And I'm just going to hit record. And I'm just going to start playing something. So that's a masterpiece. So I'm going to hit stop here. I'm going to give this a name. Name it Tony. Give it a quick playback before I save it. Make sure it's as amazing as I think it is. It's pretty amazing. I'm going to hit save to save it. So now when I hit the mixer, you can now see this song is enabled as well. So if I start playing along with that, which I'm going to do in a second, then I can adjust the relative volume as well of the song relative to the other two instruments. So super cool. Now before I start playing along with that, I'm actually going to show you something else quickly here, which is, let's say I've spent a bunch of time setting up my two voices, adjusting the reverb settings, the relative volumes, adjusting the relative volume of my background song or backing track or whatever, and I want to save it so I don't have to do it again. Well, Smart Pianist adds unlimited registrations. Super cool. So I just click on the registration button, go save current setting, give it a name, call that Tony as well, and go save. So we're going to come back to this in a minute. So I'm going to turn my layer off by hitting the layer button. I'm going to switch my main instrument to the jazz organ. Click done. Then I'm going to go to the song menu. Now, it's just automatically loaded the song that I just recorded, but if you look over here, what's super cool is Yamaha's created a chord chart for me for my song. So I can play along with that on the organ, but you can watch it scroll through the different chord changes. So that's pretty cool. Now, FYI, you can actually also have this app make chord charts for songs that are in your music library on your device as well. So super, super useful. And you can also just manually load in your own backing tracks. Also super cool. So as an example, I have, if I switch my song up, I've actually got some backing tracks of my own that I've made for, let's say, Let It Be. I'm going to load that in and go back, and you can see it's analyzing the song now, and it's going to make my chord chart for me. So there's my chord chart. I'm actually going to go back out and choose a piano voice here. Then go back into the song menu again. Then I'm going to hit play, and I can play along. So how cool is that? For a gigging performer, like if I was going to go busking, it's going to be super easy to play along with backing tracks that way. So super, super cool. And keep in mind too, the Piaggero also runs on batteries, so it is a great busking kind of keyboard. Now, just to go back to the registrations, so I've got piano chosen now, and I've got this Let It Be as the song. If I go to reload my registration that I saved, I come back in here again. We're going to be back to the stage piano and the synth pad. And if I go to the song menu, we're going to have that Tony song that I recorded. So this is a really, really cool bit of functionality. So now just to kind of round things out, if I go back out to the main menu and go to the utility menu, this is where you can set your transposing, master tuning again, as well as what you're doing in the piano room. Once again, touch curve, which was also available in the piano room, and then the sound setting. So sound boost, you can turn on and off. And then some system settings, the app version, whether you want your audio recordings to be WAV or AAC format, that type of stuff, factory reset, etc. So Smart Pianist really is an amazing app. It's awesome that Yamaha made it compatible with the new Piaggeros. It completely outshines the apps from Roland and Casio. They pretty much just pale in comparison to Smart Pianist. Okay, connectivity. For connectivity, the NP-35 at first looks pretty much to be exactly the same as the NP-32, but there has been a massive improvement here. So like the NP-32, the NP-35 has a 1/4-inch stereo headphone port, which doubles as your only option for audio output for connecting to external audio equipment, because there's no left and right line out ports, so it does work, but it's not ideal. A generic 1/4-inch sustain pedal port. There is no sustain pedal included with the piano. The cool thing is this sustain pedal port is compatible with half pedaling if you purchase a compatible pedal like the Yamaha FC3A, which supports half pedaling. If you don't care about half pedaling, then any other Yamaha pedal or any generic sustain pedal is going to work. If you get a generic no-name one, make sure you get one with a polarity switch. That way you know it's going to work for sure with the Yamaha. Then there's a USB port to connect to a tablet or a PC. So what's the massive improvement? The massive improvement is that the NP-35 and NP-15 now have an audio interface built into the USB port, just like the Yamaha P125, P225, DGX670, CK series of pianos, and a lot of other Yamahas like the PSR-E series. This is a huge feature. This allows you to send and receive high-quality digital audio direct to a device without needing an external audio interface box like a Focusrite Scarlett. So what does this actually mean, and what does it allow you to do? Well, you can send high-quality audio direct to your DAW like GarageBand without an external audio interface. You can record a high-quality piano video with direct digital audio just by connecting your piano directly to your phone. Your phone's camera app is going to use the direct audio from the piano instead of its built-in mic when you record a video, so you get really good quality audio. You can play external audio from your device, so play along with YouTube videos, backing tracks. You can listen to your online piano lessons and play along, all of that kind of stuff. And you'll hear it through your piano speakers or headphones. So you can play along with those just as if it was a normal audio import. And if you're using your Piaggero as a MIDI controller to trigger sounds on some kind of an app or VST or whatever on a device, instead of having to listen to those MIDI sounds only on the device, those sounds are going to get sent back through that USB connection to your pianos, headphones, and speakers without any lag. So this basically opens you up to an unlimited number of sounds that you can use with your Piaggero. So to sum up the connectivity on the NP-35 and 15, while I do wish the piano had left and right line out ports, the inclusion of a built-in audio interface really is a game-changing feature for an entry-level digital piano or keyboard. So this is a big improvement on this model. Okay, speakers. The speakers on both the NP-35 and NP-15 have seen a small upgrade from the prior versions, not in wattage, but in speaker size. As with the prior versions, the NP-35 has two 6-watt speakers for a total of 12 watts, and the NP-15 has two 2.5-watt speakers for a total of 5 watts. The upgrade is that the speakers in both keyboards are now 8 inches instead of 6 inches. I really like the fact that the speakers face the player. I'm not personally a fan of downward-facing or backwards-facing speakers. These speakers are fine for practice, but for any kind of performing, you're going to need additional amplification. Here's a quick speaker demo just as picked up by the built-in mic on my iPhone, and I will also include a quick demo of the sound boost feature in here. And remember, this is a demo of the NP-35 speakers, so it's the 12-watt version, not the 5-watt version from the NP-15. Okay, so other features. Some other features to mention on the NP-35. You can run it on 6 AA batteries. Between that and the lightweight, that makes the NP-35 a great busking option. There's 6 types of reverb with 10 depth levels for each, or you can just have reverb turned off. Common preferences like touch sensitivity and the metronome beat are saved when power is turned off, so that's a nice feature. In addition to the Smart Pianist app, the NP series is also compatible with Yamaha's free Rec and Share app. This app is basically just an alternative to the built-in camera on your phone for recording videos with high-quality direct audio. Keep in mind you can do this just with the built-in camera app on your phone, but the Yamaha Rec and Share app is free and it does have some extra features which can be nice to have, so you can check that out if you want. So what's missing or could be improved? For an entry-level piano-focused keyboard from Yamaha with a non-weighted but graded action that does provide a reasonably pianistic playing experience, good quality sounds, and a built-in USB audio interface at only $350, it's pretty hard to complain much about that. But there is one thing Yamaha could do, in my opinion, that would make the NP-35 even better without making it any more expensive. And that is label some keys. A lot of keyboards that force you to use key combinations to change settings will at least label some of the keys for you. The only labels on the Piaggero are numbers for configuring the metronome. It would be a huge addition if Yamaha could add just a couple of labels for transposing up and down, adjusting relative volumes of layered voices up and down, adjusting octaves of the main and layered voice if you're using it up or down, and adjusting reverb levels up or down. A couple of more things that would increase the cost of the Piaggero, but would be super nice to have. Left and right line out ports for proper connectivity to external audio equipment, and include a key bed that is proper octave width. Given that the Piaggero is supposed to be a piano-focused keyboard as opposed to an arranger or synth like the PSR-E series, it really should have proper key widths. And either enable splits and replace one of the church organ or harpsichord voices with a bass guitar, or replace one of those voices with a pre-split bass and grand piano or bright piano voice would be really nice to have. But once again, for the price of $350, the NP-35 is a great value, assuming you're looking for a pianistic keyboard. Okay, so what about the competition? Well, let's look at the NP-35, which is about $350 versus arrangers. Best example is the Yamaha PSR-E 473 at almost the same price, $370. When you compare the overall feature set of the Piaggero series with arranger keyboards like the 61-key PSR-E 473, which I have reviewed, got a link to that in the description below, there's no comparison. The 473 completely blows away the Piaggero, while it only has 61 keys. There are hundreds of sounds, rhythms and accompaniment, left and right line outputs, multi-track MIDI recording and audio recording, mic input with gain and effects, multiple types of DSP effects, live control knobs, and a pitch bend wheel. But if you were to ask me, you've got to play a piano or electric piano or organ song with your band in front of a crowd, which keyboard would you rather use? That's where the cost of the Piaggero starts to become justified, and that is because of the box-shaped piano keys and the far more pianistic key action. It is really such a shame that Yamaha didn't take this to the next level and include the proper octave width keys. So what would my answer be? I would probably choose the Piaggero for that question, because even though I'd have to use the headphone outs instead of left and right line outputs, the graded soft touch key action is far easier to play pianistically and to control your dynamics than the PSR-E series synth action keys are. And even though the octave width is narrower than I would like, it's also like that on the synth action key bed on the PSR-E series anyway. So basically, if you're comparing this to an arranger keyboard, you really have to ask yourself, what are you after? What is more important to you? All the extra features on the PSR-E series or the pianistic experience on the Piaggero, because that's really what you're paying for. These two types of keyboards really can't be compared directly because they are aimed at two totally different kinds of player. Okay, so the only real direct competitor for the Yamaha Piaggero is the Corgliano, which also sells for about $350 US. I have reviewed that as well, so you can check out that review. There's a link in the description below. It is also a piano-focused keyboard with a very pianistic action. It isn't graded like the Piaggero is, but it has 88 keys, and they're true full-size octave width keys. And it still feels and responds in a very pianistic way. It can also run on batteries. It weighs a similar amount, a little bit more, at 15 pounds instead of 13, and it also has that built-in audio interface. Neither keyboard has left and right line outs, and the Yamaha has 15 sounds versus 8 sounds, and I'd have to say that while the sounds on the Liano are pretty good, the sounds on the Yamaha are a bit better, in my opinion. And the other thing the Piaggero has going for it is the Smart Pianist app. There is no equivalent app for the Liano. So basically, this comparison comes down to the slightly better, in my opinion, sounds, and better selection of sounds for sure on the Piaggero, the ability to layer sounds, the graded soft touch keys on the Piaggero versus the 88 true full-size octave width keys on the Liano. So, to ask that question again, which one would I choose? To be honest, this would be a tough decision, but for me, I would probably choose the Corgliano over the Yamaha Piaggero, but that is only because I'd be using it as a secondary portable option for my other keyboards, all of which have the same full-size octave width that I'm used to. But if I was choosing one of these to be my only keyboard, then I'd probably go with the Piaggero, because then I'd be getting a better selection of high-quality sounds, the ability to layer sounds, and the option of using the Smart Pianist app. And if it was going to be my only keyboard, my main keyboard, then I'd just end up getting used to those narrower keys. So the verdict. What's the verdict on the Yamaha Piaggero NP-35? Kind of depends on what you're after. If you're looking for a low-cost, lightweight, and portable keyboard that is piano-centric or piano-focused, then the Piaggero NP-35 is a great option, but also do take a look at the Corgliano. However, if you're not that concerned about the playing experience being as piano-like as possible, then there are keyboards like the PSR-E 473 for the same price that have far more features. With the NP-35, you're getting a good selection of great quality sounds from Yamaha in a super portable keyboard with a graded piano-like action, Smart Pianist compatibility, and it even includes a built-in USB audio interface for $350 US. That's not too bad. So that's pretty much it for this review. As always, I have links below to products I've mentioned here, so you can check out current prices in your area, as well as some links to other relevant reviews of mine, and also some links to some online piano training that worked really well for me. So thanks again for stopping by. Happy piano playing and happy piano shopping. Have an awesome day.